Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. So please go to those channels if you get some any more information, updated information, and that's where we'll be trying to contact or communicate with our travelers throughout this situation. If you are traveling today or the next couple of days, please check with your airline for flight and baggage information. That information is not available currently on our SEA airport apps that we know a lot of folks have used in the past or on our website. So check in with your airline flight and baggage information apps. They're the ones that have the key information for it right now, and that's where you're going to get your updates. The Frontier, Spirit, Sun Country, and the international airlines are especially affected. These are some of our folks that are using our common use check-in counters and our kiosks, and also the common use gates that we have. Please arrive at least 3 hours early if you're traveling with these carriers. If you're traveling with one of these carriers, we also encourage you to arrive early for check-in and baggage checks. So that may take a little bit more time with some of those. In particular, our international folks, we're seeing some longer lines for those, as there are a lot of folks that typically check in a lot of items for our international passengers. So that may take you a little bit extra time, which also may mean then that flight will probably be a little bit later as well too, is what we're seeing. They're making sure that they get everybody on board as much as they can, and then they'll depart. Use your airline app again to get your mobile boarding pass and check baggage before you get to the airport. Wi-Fi again at the airport is unavailable, so doing it before you get to the airport will help speed up the check-in process. I know TSA is noting for us as well too, is that if you can print your if you can print your boarding pass ahead of time, that's a big key as well, or at least have that again on your airline app, using your airline app for those pieces. Certain programs and services that we offer here through the airport are not available. So that's like the SEA Visitor Pass is not available. The Airport Lost and Found are currently unavailable, and they'll process your inquiries as soon as possible. We're trying to get those up as soon as possible. But again, those are all interconnected with our systems here at the port. Checkpoint wait times are currently unavailable on our display screens, as are all the flight information boards. Those are still down because those are operated by the airport. I can tell you, though, at this point, the checkpoint lines are not problematic for us, quite honestly, because the lines that we do have typically are on the ticket counters. That's basically spread out some of the lines that are happening at the checkpoints. Checkpoints are doing a great job. We appreciate our partners with TSA. People are getting through and not having any concerns with that. In fact, throughout the summer, we've had a great record with the majority of our folks have been getting through security checkpoints in less than 30 minutes throughout the summer. So we're really happy about how that's going. So that's not one of the key factors that you got to worry about. We are encouraging, though, passengers to take carry-on luggage if possible and follow standard TSA guidelines for packing, including the 311 liquids rule. Customers can get assistance from our customer care team on any of our @FlySEA social media and channels, and on a Customer Care Connect, which is 800-544-1965, 800-544-1965. And then in the terminal, look for any of our team in green. In vests and in shirts that we've got with our folks, those are the folks that you want to pay attention to, and they know what's going on. So if they're telling you to wander this way or go to that way, that's the place to go, because they've been here constantly on the ground here in this situation. They're the ones to listen to. If you have downloaded our FlySEA app previous to the outage that's been going on, you can still use that for access to maps and things that are going on to navigate throughout the airport. So that is one of the good things. You can still use it. It's not going to, again, give you the updates for what your flight updates or what the your situation for your specific flight or airline is, but you can help navigate around the airport with it. From a baggage standpoint, if you can travel without bags, do so, without checking bags, that is. If you can travel without checking bags, do so. So our airlines are encouraging folks to be able to just go ahead and carry on what you need and go straight to the security checkpoints. That'll make a big difference from that standpoint. If you are looking to check bags, it may take you some extra time. So be aware of that in particular. So our major airlines like Delta and Alaska, United and Southwest are not having this kind of situation affecting them. So in that situation, it's working well for them, but there are still challenges from our system on the back side of that, which is what our baggage system is, that is potentially delaying some bags to get to where they're going to go. So you may not notice anything until maybe you get to your destination. There's still some backlog of those types of bags that potentially could still be waiting for your arrival, whether that's the next flight it comes back to or it's delivered in another way. They have different ways in which they provide their baggage for that. So if you can travel without bags, just carry-ons, please do so at this point. And then finally, just as a note from the Port of Seattle overall, the cruise ship operations are operating as normal. Port of Seattle Maritime Facility phone systems are down as part of the system outage, but the cruise operations are still occurring. We still see plenty of our cruise passengers that are here in the terminal and moving on to the next step for what they're looking to do as well too, and to catch into their next flight. So quickly, I want to connect with Greg Hawko, who is our Federal Service Director here for TSA. I have a couple of comments first. Thanks, Greg.
Good afternoon. Greg Hawko, Federal Security Director for the TSA for the state of Washington. I'd like to reinforce again that the security of the traveling public was not impacted by this at all. All of our systems remained operational, and our checkpoint equipment and all of our processes were not impacted. We continue to screen throughout both checked baggage and checked point passengers without any issues. Our team here in the Seattle for the TSA has worked nonstop 24 hours a day, every day. But this weekend, they all came together and worked even harder, and the team here did an amazing job that helped limit the amount of impacts that the airport community and the traveling public experienced while coming through the airport. I want to reinforce that if you have the opportunity to use a mobile boarding pass or print your boarding pass at home, please do. That will help through the checkpoints and speed your time through. Ability to maybe skip the ticket counters and have something that we can use our technology to screen as opposed to manually. Also, please, if you're not used to traveling with only carry-on bags, check your bags for prohibited items and remember the 311 liquid rules. As we head into a very busy holiday weekend, we will continue to see high levels of passenger volume, and please be prepared for security.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. So, open up to questions. How can help other than that?
That was a lot of information about what's working, what isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, what the heck happened here?
And that point that we're still looking into that. So that is the question that is on everybody's mind, and all of our staff are working to figure out what exactly occurred. We're still working on analysis and recovery at this point and hope to learn more in the future.
Was this an update, or did somebody that was a SeaTac airport employee download a virus?
At this point, still saying like we've said before, which is that we had saw some nefarious characters that may have been on our system early in the morning on Saturday, and as we would take precautions for that, we actually turned off our entire system to avoid anything further. But beyond that, can't say anything further as the investigation continues.
Windows-based? Was this Windows-based? Because the kiosks make it look like it's a Windows-based system.
At this point, we're not discussing those points of it for any specifics for software or anything.
Do you know at this point if any data has been compromised?
Not as far as I know. We have not had anything that we've been aware of, but again, that is part of our investigation to understand what is continued, what the situation recurred to at the very end of all of this.
And the bag sorting is specifically the issue that's being, a big impact right now for the airlines, correct?
Yeah, bag sorting is the piece that's really been mostly affected for us. That's what is operated by the airport itself. So there are systems that the airlines themselves specifically use in order to track the bags as they go, thinking about the bag tags that you have, getting those scanned, and then getting those off and then tracking them. Once it goes down, though, however, into our system, it's a system of about 10 miles of conveyor belts that is then being tracked throughout that entire system. So basically, it's got scanners just like you would think of when you're at a grocery store. It is hitting and following those bags over and over and over throughout those entire conveyor belts. That system is what's down from our standpoint. So what is occurring is that they can go to a certain point, but at that point they can't be separated to different parts of the airport where they would be loaded onto their specific aircraft. So our staff as well as additional staff from the airlines are then getting together at that point, and they will load those onto baggage carts, and then they're taking them to the gates at that point. So it takes a little bit longer, and that's why we may see some backup in baggage that may take extra time to get to the destination.
So
And
it-
Alaska's reporting that 7,000 bags yesterday had to be manually sorted. Is that a correct number?
That's what we're hearing. So check in with the airlines. They're the ones that are familiar with what they've got from the bagging. So like I said, there is a background or a back up to those types of situations. And so once we get that system back up and going again in full, then that'll be able to catch up. But they're also working as well too with the systems that they have for backups to try and figure out how can we deliver those as fast as we can. But until we get that backup in full system, it's not going to operate as smoothly as we typically do.
You mentioned nefarious characters in the system. What about these anomalies in the technological systems you have stood out as suspicious?
And we're not getting into that detail at this point.
What, if anything, at this point, have you learned from this experience that you would then change going forward to either prevent this from happening in the future or mitigate some of the consequences?
And that's a great question. And that's something that we're going to be coming up with an after action plan after this. Once we determine and have that analysis of what exactly happened, how we're going to recover to get to that point, we want to figure out what's that next step. We know what happened. This is how we recover. What can we do in the future to make sure that this doesn't happen again? You're right. That's going to be something we'll be looking at.
Can you explain the difference here with why Alaska and Delta are not having the same issues as Frontier, Sun Country?
Yeah, sure. I mean, essentially what it is it's the specific airline applications and software that they use for their baggage systems versus what we call a common use situation. So Alaska and Delta are our largest carriers. It's about 75% of our traffic that goes through here. When you're talking about some of our smaller airlines, in particular our internationals, which may only have one flight a day in and out, and then some of our other carriers like Frontier, Sun Country, Spirit, they don't have a full lease space of property, basically, as you kind of think of it, that they would use over and over again. They'll use common use spaces that are operated by the systems and the computer setups that we provide here as the airport. So once they go up to that, it's that system that they'll end up working with. In fact, right now, we're being told that some of our international carriers have actually been reaching out to some of their hubs or other places around the world to bring in equipment that they can use that would be portable and specifically to be able to help them get through that system right now. But that's the difference. It's whether it's that common use space or it's that space that's basically preferential and reserved and lease space that those carriers have that are here regularly.
It's still 4 canceled flights at this time. No additional flights have been canceled as a result of this.
Like the information that you see on FlightAware is pretty up to date for that, so we have not seen a whole lot of those. The airlines have done a really good job in alerting folks as to what the situations are, so that's very helpful from that standpoint. Just similar like you would see when we've got a storm or an ice situation, the snow, that kind of thing. So it's catching up on those kinds of things, getting people alerted and update, and then getting all those things in their choreography of what they have to put through all of their system throughout the country.
And is there an update on what's going on with the parking lot? I know like yesterday the ticketing was kind of waived. Is it still waived?
It depends on the volume, quite honestly. So we have waived parking fees and just let people go through when it's at the highest peak level, because we don't want to create a dangerous situation where backups occur and go all the way back into the helices of the garage. That just creates a dangerous situation for us. We don't want to have that happen. If it gets to that level, then our folks are allowed to just open the gates and let people go through. But we are trying to track those as much as we can. That is part of the system that we're trying to catch up with as well too, to make sure that those are tracked.
And are you keeping track of how many tickets that you're able, like basically how much money you're losing?
Yeah, and that'll be something that'll be part of our, after action understanding of what happens that as well too. So that's not uncommon for us. So all of those folks would be tracked. We would be hanging on to those tickets that would be there and try and figure out what kind of loss that we may have at the end of that. So we've seen that in the past before as well too, when we've had some outages out there in the garage. So it's not unusual. It is a backup system that our folks are aware of and know how to handle, and then we'll just figure out what's that next step afterwards.
And so is the actual credit card machines down, or is it just?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Some passengers were telling me that when they flew in on Saturday, they noticed that the tarmac was pretty crowded. Has there been any issues with taxiing, anything with the FAA or air traffic control?
No, it hasn't necessarily been a taxing situation. It has been, again, kind of similar to what you might see in a storm situation, because some of these aircraft may be waiting at the gates for baggage to help fill themselves up before they head out. That means that gate can't be used for another flight that may have just arrived. So if you've arrived for a flight that's set to go in, say, C3, but that flight at C3 hasn't left yet, then you still got to wait for that until that gets cleared out. Also, on the other side, from an international standpoint, an interesting aspect of it can be is what type of aircraft is being used as well too. Some of our larger aircraft that are used here at the airport only have, say, a handful of gates that they can actually use based on their size. So if those are full already, even if we had an opportunity for another one to be open, but if that doesn't fit that aircraft, you can't bring that one in. It's still got to wait until an aircraft that is comes out of a gate that it can fit into leaves before that one then can move in.
Perry, I don't know if you can help confirm this, but a former manager says that he's still somehow on the automated call list, and he received an email saying that they're asking him not to call, or they keep telling him, please do not log on to our VPNs right now, and please don't click on any links or pop-ups that you get right now.
Yes, that is confirmed. So that is what we're asking all of our employees right now. So even myself, we have not been able to sign on to or click into, plug into our systems right now, because that's going to be problematic for our folks. So actually, a lot of our folks, to their great credit that we want to highlight as well too, a lot of our folks who would normally be working in some of our other offices outside of operations have been out on the floor today and been helping people. So they've been in green vests and trying to help us by added people on the floor to give some customer service.
Is this the way that nefarious character or people got into the systems?
We just don't know at this point.
Any estimate on how much extra staff the airport has brought in?
You know, I haven't seen a number for that, but again, like I say, we've got hundreds of folks that are typically in our office buildings or within spaces that may not have an operations per se job that would be on the ground doing, say, whether it's ramp work, baggage work, those kinds of things, that have been able to come out of their office. Say some of our finance folks, some of our environmental folks, folks have been able to come down onto the terminal space and have been working in shifts, volunteering for shifts to be down there to try and help people find what they need, whether it's restrooms, directions to the checkpoints, trying to help them in whatever way we can.
Why would nefarious characters want to attack SeaTac Airport?
That's a great question. So hopefully we'll find out some more details of that in our investigation.
You don't have any idea who it may be?
At this point, that investigation continues. Yeah, and so we've got to find out what that may have been, and like someone mentioned earlier, then find out what those follow-up situations may be afterwards.
So if Wi-Fi is out and all these systems are out, how is TSA still online with no issue?
Again, with their system. Greg, do you want to speak towards you guys?
Yeah, so in all of our locations, both our in the field, throughout airports, throughout the country, we are on our own dedicated secure network that is controlled by TSA. That's why we had no impacts to any of our equipment or any of our operational capabilities.
Have you been in contact with any other airports around the country to see if they've had similar intrusions or nefarious characters?
I mean, we stay in contact with our partners in other airports throughout the year for whatever that we're working on. So our folks will stay in connection with them to see if there's anything that they've gone through or they've seen that might be helpful for us. We're always looking for that kind of help. And likewise, we'll be sending them information about what we've experienced here that may be able to help them in the future as well, too. So that's something that we share information a lot.
When do you think this will be resolved?
At this point, we do not have a time or a date for it. We hope to have an idea soon, but we do not have a time or a date as to when will this get resolved.
Yesterday you guys mentioned working with federal partners to kind of figure things out. Are you guys able to explain how you're working with federal partners or what partners you're working with?
No, I think we're in the same boat for that as well too. The investigation continues. We're working with federal partners like the FBI, like our partners that we've got here on the ground, from TSA to CBP, all those kinds of things, Homeland Security. So we're in reach to as many folks as we can to get help and understanding of what they may be able to help us with. But at this time, we're not sharing anything further that goes beyond that.
And just to confirm, you talked about the other side of the force having phone issues. It's
Mm-hmm.
you guys are also still experiencing web and phone issues, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so that's happening both in the port. So the port runs both the maritime space as well as the airport here as well too. So it's affecting our systems on both sides. At this point, it hasn't affected any de-embarkations for any of our cruise ships. So passengers are still getting off fine. They're coming here as they would normally to try and advance and go to their next aircraft.
It seems like it's kind of impacted the airport a lot more than it's impacted the water side of things. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yeah, I think that's an easy assumption to make. Sure, you bet, just even just from the numbers. So, I mean, the numbers that we have here going through an airport at any time, we're basically the fourth or fifth largest city in the state on our busiest days during the summer, where we'll have up to 170,000 people going through the airport in a day. So we are not at our busiest days right now here, just ahead of Labor Day holiday. It's going to get a little bit busier, but this summer has been one of our busiest ever. So we've already seen 2 days that have set brand new records for the number of passengers that have gone through the airport all time. So that's over 198,000 passengers just to go through the terminal in one day. And we did that twice within 1 week here earlier in August. So we're expecting to set a new record overall for the year with a brand new overall all-time record number for annual passengers.
And are you guys still doing handwritten boarding passes and the more common use areas?
The common use spaces, what they are looking at is they are having to do that handwritten for the baggage as well too. So that is one of the challenges that makes it slower, because they just don't have that. They don't, the computer that's normally there that's a common use, they can't use. That's not in operation right now. And they don't necessarily have the backup systems like some of the larger airlines that have been here that can then basically walk in with their system and their computer systems to be able to say, all right, well, we'll take it over from here and get this going in this space.
Does it cause any kind of possible security risk having to do handwritten things like that at all?
Greg, do you want to speak towards that?
No, not at all. All of the passengers are submitted the manifest through the airlines. They are all verified through our secure flight vetting center, and then they are issued the boarding passes. There is no risk there. They would still receive screening as they would, and boarding passes as they would if they were being printed off a machine. They are all vetted and cleared by TSA.
So you can't just walk in with a random handwritten boarding pass?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
Last couple questions?
Can the airport confirm whether or not anyone who's flown in and out of SeaTac over the past few days has had anything of theirs, any personal identifying information lost?
I am not aware of that at all. So, yeah, I can check back with you to see if there's anything more on that. But I think that's all part of our investigation again. I think that's what we'll end up going back to, figure out what that might be. So I have no indication of that at this time.
Between this and what happened with CrowdStrike, what's it tell you about the IT here at SeaTac Airport?
Well, I mean, a CrowdStrike was specific to airlines, but I think it's just like overall, I mean, we are a society as a world that we're dependent upon these types of things. So when technology stuff goes down, we've got to figure out what those backups are and always be diligent, vigilant in how we're going to prepare for that. In that case, it was an airline situation. This time it's an airport situation. So hopefully we're going to learn and improve and be better in the future. Anything else? All right. Good deal. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.